Now it's prediction time, Ryan. We've kind of done the keys to the game. So let's kind of talk about how we see this game playing out and kind of what went into your prediction method. I think you and I had a different prediction method, which is part of the fun. I give you guys very little directive. I just say, give me your score and explain to me how you're going to see it. And it's partly so that you can explain to people like, hey, here's how I came to this prediction. So I'm going to start with you. I'm going to let you to make your prediction of the game, and then I want you to kind of explain how you see the game going out. And then I want you to then I'm going to follow a question on your prediction because I know what your prediction is. So I'm going to let you do that first. Then I will have a follow-up question for you.
Yeah, I picked Notre Dame to win this game 35-13. And Brian, honestly, this is the head outweighing the heart in this one because, I mean, when I look at this team on paper, again, Notre Dame's talent-wise is just a different caliber than this football team. This game should be a 50-something-to-nothing game or 50-something-to-7 game. Like, there's that much difference in talent, in my opinion. But I've come down on expectations on this team as far as doing what they need to do, right? So I'm just 35-13 is me, I think, being a little lukewarm on this game. I think it should still be a decisive victory, which a 22-point win is still decisive, no matter how you cut it against, whatever team you're playing. But I just went with 35 just because I don't know what to expect from the offense. I don't trust it until I see it. We talked about it being a show-me business. I need to see this offense really come out and play to its fullest potential in order for me to feel better about them, right? Like, it needs to happen. So I went 35-13. I think it's a little mild in a prediction, but need to see it before I can fully buy into it, the growth that's happening.
So, Ryan, you were not alone in your 35-13. Vince also predicted 35-13. Sean Davis predicted 30-3. Andrew McDonough predicted 31-13. And Sean Stiers predicted 32-17. And the thought, I mean, if you read, you can see the predictions for the entire staff at irishbreakdown.com. So you can check that out. It's also on the message board at boards.irishbreakdown.com. If you are a member, we have some conversation there about that as well. You all are coming at it from the same exact standpoint, and it's completely right. This team's got to show me something first. Like, why should I have faith that this team is going to go out and play to their potential and dominate this opponent? My prediction was, and I'll get into that next, my prediction was based off this is what should happen. What I want to ask you, Ryan, is if Notre Dame does 3 of the 4 keys in here and the special teams plays clean, what should the game look like? What is Notre Dame capable? And I don't mean like they played the perfect game and win 59-0. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about if Notre Dame just kind of plays their game and UNLV is going to do their thing. It's both teams play sort of their game. What should the game look like then if we're in a situation where Notre Dame plays to its potential as a football team? That's what I'm curious about. How you see it in that regard.
Sure. When I say it's a mild prediction, I think it's mild from the offensive perspective, right? Because I think that Notre Dame has the firepower to score. It's just the offense has just been so up and down that it's hard to kind of buy into a little bit. So to answer your question, if there's some answers that happen offensively, like let's say 3 out of 4 of the keys work in the right direction for Notre Dame, then I think you could add at least 2 touchdowns to the total. I mean, I think that it could be a 49-13 game, maybe 52-13 game. Like, I think that either way, I expect the defense to have a good showing because, again, Doug Brumfield coming off injury. We'll see if he's limited, if he plays, all that good stuff. But I think that Notre Dame has the horses to limit this running game and make things difficult for UNLV. Now, I think they'll score a little bit just because I do think that they have some good skill talent on this team. But I think to answer your question, Brian, the biggest thing for me is that I think I'm being very mild with my score prediction from the offensive side of the football if Notre Dame does click at a higher rate. So I think that it could be 40-something-13. I think it could hover around 50-13. If Notre Dame puts it together, it's just I haven't seen it enough to be confident in that assumption right now.
Yes, completely understand that. That makes total sense. I like what John Klimek says. 45-9 pissed off head coach Freeman is what I want to see. So if I look at it from the standpoint of what you guys said, I think your prediction of 35-13 and some combination of that, or what Sean Stiers had at 32-17, some kind of 35-20, 35-17 game is there. If Notre Dame just lays an egg and plays like they did against Stanford, UNLV is capable of beating them. I mean, let's be honest. You lost to Marshall and Stanford, you can lose to UNLV, right? That's the reality of the situation. So I think 30-17, 35-20 is kind of the range if we see just kind of Notre Dame do what they've done most of the season. My prediction went a little bit of a different direction, Ryan, and I kind of went more of a this is what should happen type of thing. And I went Notre Dame 49-17. And my prediction is based off, like I said, this is kind of what a should. And I explained it in my breakdown. I mean, like I said, I'm going back to and this is how I used to make predictions. This year I tried to be more about like this is what I think will happen. And this team is just too hard to read. The funny thing is like and reading through every single one of like Vince's first sentence in his breakdown, his prediction is, who is this team? I mean, really, who is Notre Dame in 2022? And you talked about that as well, Ryan. I mean, your final statement is this game is more about Notre Dame versus Notre Dame than the matchup against UNLV. It's you're fighting against yourself in this game. And so I went with what should happen. And I'm even taking into account that they're going to do some of the scan stuff. I even took that into account. You know, like I don't expect them to just push the tempo. But, you know, if they come out and they dominate the line of scrimmage, they get the receivers involved in the game plan, the defense plays to its potential, I think this is a game that could be a 49-7 type of game is where it should be. You know, because you are I mean, we've seen this offense capable of it. We saw it against North Carolina. You know, if they play against UNLV the way they did against North Carolina and even BYU, they're a 40-plus point team against UNLV. And that's kind of the way that I'm looking at it. I'm not even talking about max out. They do all the keys that we do. If they do all the keys that we do, Ryan, this should be a 50-something to teens type of game, in my opinion. But I don't anticipate them doing all those things, right? And so I'm going 49-17. Part of that also is I do think they get a defensive score in this game. I do think we're going to see something like that where we get some kind of defensive or special team score. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean a direct one. It could be like a blocked punt that gets recovered at the 8 or a fumble or an interception that gets the ball back inside the 20. I count that as kind of a defensive touchdown, meaning the defense sets you up. That's what I'm referring to it as a defensive touchdown, not a direct pick six or fumble recovery, but more of there's a touchdown that's going to be they forced a fumble and recovered it at the 8 and the offense punched it in a couple plays later. That's where I'm coming from on that. So my prediction was 49-17. So we all predicted Notre Dame win. Very wide range of scores there. We even have a lot of wide range of scores from fans. So, I mean, you're seeing a lot of this stuff. I mean, you know, that's where we're at. So again, I think some people aren't hearing something that I said. I'm predicting what should happen, not what will happen or what is based off what this team has done. Okay, so hear that before you freak out and put 75 exclamation marks after my score. Very clear. I'm going a different method. It's what should happen. Will it happen? I have no clue. And that's why I'm going back to doing it this way, because I have no clue what this football team is going to do. None. But what I do know is I know what Notre Dame's roster looks like. I know what UNLV's roster looks like. I know that they just lost 40-7 to San Jose State and 42-7 to Air Force. Okay, so this is what should happen. And again, 49-17 is not, oh, they've arrived, because the top 10 teams in the country could beat them worse than 49-7. This is what should happen if they're just playing to the best of who this particular team is, not who I think this team can be. That's a different prediction, Ryan. That's a whole different prediction, in my opinion. So that's where I'm at for this game. So that's what people need to understand about where my prediction comes from. It's what should happen, not what I think will happen. So that's where I'm at with that. So we have a